Thanks for joining us this morning. 4 capital cities and 12 million Aussies now in lockdown. And the dangerous Delta strain spreading. That is what we're grappling with right now. For more, we're joined by Queensland Senator Matt Canavan and from Stella Magazine, Sarah Lamarque. Nice to talk to both of you. Matt, let's talk Queensland. So the woman at the centre of this outbreak was working as a casual receptionist outside a COVID ward in Brisbane, unvaccinated. She's sick for 2 days, knew she was sick and still went on holidays. Where do you even start?
Well, Ali, you can't legislate against stupidity, unfortunately. People are going to act in these sort of ways. I don't like the fact, though, that every time there is a problem in Queensland Health or some other system in Queensland, the Premier of Queensland, Anastasia Palaszczuk, immediately starts blaming everybody else. Well, it's time to stop that. It's time just to fix this solution, fix these issues, get her own staff in Queensland Health vaccinated as soon as possible. I couldn't even say how many in their own system were vaccinated or not yesterday because we can't afford more of these lockdowns. There's a massive cost to businesses, especially at the most busiest time for our tourism industry at school holidays.
And how's Northern Queensland feeling? I mean, they've done such a good job keeping COVID out. You've had 10 days this person has been in the community while infectious. We know how infectious the Delta variant is. I mean, this, Matt, could be really bad.
Look, it could be, but at this stage there's no cases in North Queensland, so that's a good thing. I do think some of these premiers are rushing to lockdown far too quickly. I do feel for all those businesses in Townsville, as I say, at school holidays have just been forced into a lockdown without a single case. That's never happened, I don't believe, in a capital city, maybe in Perth over there, but on the eastern seaboard, that's never happened. So why is Townsville being forced into a lockdown, but there's not a single case of coronavirus there at the moment?
Isn't it best, though, to jump on top of it in case? We've seen what's happened in Sydney.
As I said, I think there's got to be a balance here, right? Like, these are massive costs being imposed on people who have spent their lives building up their businesses, who are waiting for this school holiday period, especially in North Queensland, where this is the peak time. This is when people come up to the north when it's a bit cold down south. And they've just had all their plans just shattered here. And I realise people are concerned about the coronavirus. We have to keep things in perspective, though. Not a single Australian, touch wood, has died from the coronavirus this year. But these costs that are imposed on people's lives and mental health do real damage.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, isn't it? Sarah, we've got 12 million people in lockdown across 4 states and territories. We only had 23 cases nationwide yesterday, and no one is seriously sick. Are we overreacting?
Well, I think that the Premier's, certainly the New South Wales Premier has held her nerve this past year, and I don't think it's fair to characterise the lockdown that we're experiencing in New South Wales and Greater Sydney at the moment as being a knee-jerk response. I think that the Premier of New South Wales was very reluctant to take that path, and while I'm sure the Queensland Premier would highly disagree with me here, the fact that New South Wales has made this decision has made it easier for her to go into this 3-day lockdown in Queensland. I completely agree with Matt. It's really worrying for tourist operators. Those of us in the southern states, we do all head north at this time of year. I'm one of them. We always come up during the school holidays. But the truth is, in New South Wales, none of us can travel right now. And people in Victoria, border closures notwithstanding, after what they've been through the last 15 months, they're very reluctant to travel. So I actually think the fallout for Queensland would have happened anyway. And I think that she's made the right decision to take action now.
Hey, Sarah, I have no idea why you'd want to leave Sydney. I'm just looking at that shot behind you. I mean, gee, it's a beautiful day in Sydney where you are right now.
Ali, and yesterday was
Queensland's
beautiful.
better. Queensland is better.
Matt, I would get there if I could, believe me. Can I just say, working from home, trying to edit 3 magazines from my kitchen table, did I mention it's school holidays and rain? Every working parent knows what I'm talking about.
All the balls are up in the air and at the moment you're juggling them well, Sarah, so well done. But Matt, I mean, how different things would be if people were vaccinated. And to see this confusion over the last couple of days, the Prime Minister telling the under 40s they can now get the AstraZeneca jab. But you've got the AMA, you've also got Queensland Health saying no, stick with Pfizer. And GPs are angry this morning that they were given no warning before they were swamped with calls. I mean, Matt, don't you guys have one main job here and you're not getting it right?
Well, Ali, I do believe patients should make their own choices about their medical care. I think this is the right decision. I've raised my issues with AstraZeneca in the past. I was pilloried for it at the time. But we know the risks now. That was just to make sure we understood the risks. We know the risks of AstraZeneca. It is very rare, but it will be an issue for people with certain underlying conditions. The key thing is to consult with your GP, get the information. Just like any other medical treatment, you're told the risks. You're told this could do X, Y, and Z. You do that when you go to the dentist, when you get any kind of pain relief, and you decide. And it's not unusual in the medical sphere for there to be different opinions. That's why we have the term second opinion. People do go in lots of other health circumstances, non-coronavirus circumstances, and get second opinions. And likewise here with a new virus, it's not surprising to me that there are different views. Ultimately though, you should decide, the patient decide. It's your arm, it's going to be your health side effects. You make that decision looking at all the risks, and if you think you can do it, go for it.
But Matt, I mean, you say that we all need to be patient. I tell you what, when we are the last country, we're coming last in all OECD countries to roll out a vaccine program.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Yes, we are, Matt.
Well,
who's
look,
behind us?
When you look at New Zealand, when you look at the number of people who've had a first dose, New Zealand is about 14%. We're 24%. We're about a quarter, and that's a pretty comparable country, given we both have not had widespread outbreaks of coronavirus. All those other countries that are ahead of us have had hundreds of thousands of deaths. We have not. And I'd much prefer to be in a country that has a slower vaccination rate but a much lower death rate than the reverse.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at other countries and I tell you what, it's breaking our heart this morning. Sarah, we're sitting here, we're watching the English fans celebrate a soccer win against Germany like there is no such thing as COVID. The rest of the world is opening up.
Yes,
and
that's
we
right.
are stuck with 4 states and territories, 12 million people in lockdown, and the rest of the world are looking at us going, what on earth is happening in Australia?
Absolutely, and I think Australians are starting to think that our vaccination rate is really pitiful. And when you look at those countries in the Northern Hemisphere, like the United States and the UK, sitting at around 50% vaccination rate, they are starting to enjoy freedoms that we are losing by the day. We've got to get serious about this. If there's one silver lining to the lockdowns that we're seeing taking place across the country, it will be that it is shaking people out of their complacency. Look, I think obviously that there's been some bungling and miscommunication with the messaging this week. The fact that the AMA feels that the government's advice is contradicting their advice, that if you're under 60, you wait for the Pfizer vaccine. I would actually say I think it's great news that people were knocking down the doors of their GPs yesterday. And if you are under 60 and you feel comfortable getting AstraZeneca, then you should go ahead and get that. And I think that that's only a good news. Anything to get our vaccination rate up is good.
All right, well, look, Sarah, I don't want to hold you back from getting out and enjoying that beautiful day that Sydney is offering this morning. Nice to talk to both of you. We'll keep a close eye on Queensland too today. Look at that. Where else would you rather be?